Hi everyone, welcome back to another little painting demo. I'm back down at Keyhaven for a few days. I brought my son down. He's currently in a camper van, sort of recovering from a walk we've just been on. I've grabbed the opportunity to come out and do a little painting for you guys on Patreon. Now I've painted down here before, going back at Easter when it was pretty cold, but now the weather's lovely and warm. I'm going to have a little go at painting these boats just there. Can you see? And the idea is to make the actual painting as simple as possible. We're not doing anything complicated. It's going to be a very, very simple scene using limited palette of colours. And the overall idea is to sketch it quickly and very, very cleanly. So it's not going to be a complicated painting. It's going to be pretty straightforward. And I haven't got an awful lot of time because the actual tide's coming in. So I'm not sure. It might be around my feet by the time we finish. So let's see how we get on. And let's start painting. Okay then, it's been a fabulous day painting today out on the beach, even though things didn't quite possibly go the way I wanted them to. I've kind of worked out my setup a little bit when recording now to get a better video. Obviously I've got my camera set on the other side so my hand is not obscuring what I'm doing, which should make it a lot better for you guys to actually see the drawing and painting process. Anyway, I've got a photograph that I'll put up with this picture. I was on the beach and I saw this little group of boats and I thought they'd make quite a nice subject, but to be honest the light was very flat. There was no sunlight at the time of me starting to draw and paint it, and the actual scene looked very flat, and I kind of thought to myself, well, where am I going to go with this? Am I going to create light? And that's what I tell everybody to do. If there's nothing there, do it. Or am I going to paint it flat? Well, for some reason, I couldn't make this decision. And I ended up doing a little bit of both. Creating a little bit of exaggerating the shadow. And but perhaps by not enough, basically. And the actual overall scene, I didn't enjoy painting the boat for some reason. I got the shape of the boat not perfect, how I wanted it. But remember... But we have to bear in mind this is a sketch outside, and when okay, we want to get it as good as we can, but there's certain pressures, with painting and drawing outside that you're not going to have in the studio. So you don't want to be messing about too long, worrying about what I should have done in hindsight. And I think time wasn't on my side when I started this. Was to do a little preparatory drawing first in my sketchbook, and got the feeling of the scene and sketched it out before I actually committed to my watercolour paper. I've drawn it a little bit darker because I kind of think that is more helpful to you to see it than I would do if I was painting for myself. So you can see quite the outline, but the bow was a bit messed up. Anyway, by this time the sky was just a blotchy sort of a blotchy grey, bluey, warm greys and mauvey greys, so I kind of just used some phthalo blue and some cadmium yellow and some permanent magenta and various combinations of that to make some greys, and just basically blotched it all together in the sky to give that kind of feel. And I worked my way down to what is basically the grasses at the top. Well, of course, we've been having all this beautiful weather in the UK. All the grass is really brown and there's very little green to be seen. And it's a shame because when the sun was out, the browns looked really golden and rusty and beautiful colours. But when the sun went in, they kind of took on a much calmer, not such a vibrant feel to them. So I was kind of like knowing what they could be like, and the sun wasn't there to sort of give me the indicators I needed. So I kind of did the best I could. I should have gone stronger in colour with the grasses, I feel. When I started putting the paint on the paper, I thought, wow, that looks quite strong. I thought that's quite good. But then it dried and it all looked a little bit pale and not so good. Anyway, as I worked my way down, I kind of added some blue to the paint. Some green to it, and just sort of let that run wet into wet, just to diffuse together, and kept drawing that down the page, trying to create the shapes of the boats, painting in the negative areas, and trying to help improve the overall shape of the boats, which I drew. and it did a little bit, but not much. Now, had there been a really, as I said in the intro, had there been a real strong light source, then I think we would have been a lot better off. The problem was the light was neither here nor there. It was like I said, it was a very flat light, and it didn't really help much. So I couldn't make up my mind whether to paint it, create this lovely shadow that I knew could be there, or just paint what I saw. And I kind of went with a little bit of both, and that doesn't work. You have to make it. You have to commit to something, and I didn't. But you know, overall, when I look at the painting, yeah, I don't love it or anything like that. But I look at it and I think to myself, okay, that's a good memory of the day. It was worth doing. It was worth painting. So I'm overall pleased with it. I contaminated this blue. I wanted the inside the blue was this lovely kind of swimming pool blue. The sort of paint you paint a swimming pool with. And my cerulean blue, I contaminated a little bit, and it was a bit dull when it dried. So I was a bit disappointed with that. And I was going to paint the canopy on the boat, which I just used a little phthalo blue, a little bit of cobalt blue. I splurged in there later on, and a little bit of cadmium red, just to paint the canopy on top of the boat. And of course, I wanted to get everything down as quickly as I could. I didn't want to be spending a lot of time doing it because everything was changing. You know, the light's changing constantly. In fact, the tide was coming in behind me, and I wasn't sure how far it was going to actually come up the beach, but it didn't come anywhere near me, fortunately. Anyway, I just carried on painting the boat. There is another part to this video which I'll edit later, because after I finished this painting, I turned round. There was a nice view of some sparkling water and some sailing boats, which I painted afterwards. I only spent about 15 minutes, 20 minutes on it, 25 minutes maybe, and I felt that was the more successful painting out of the two. So I don't know what I'm doing now. Could have edited this bit out, couldn't I, really? So here I go, starting to indicate a little bit of colour on the boat. The boat was just a plain white fiberglass hull, which had been aged by a bit of time, you know, by being in the water and dragged up the beach and that. It was quite hard sort of colour to describe, really. I didn't want to go too dark, and I just didn't really know what to do with it, in all fairness. I started to paint the gunnels on the boat. That gave the boat a little bit more shape and helped quite a bit. And that defined the outline of the boat a bit more. Then I just used some cadmium yellow, a little bit permanent magenta, and a little bit of cobalt blue for that, to make kind of warm greys and browns and those sorts of colours. And this is where I kind of started really getting a little bit lost. I was trying to paint a shadow that wasn't really there, but I didn't want to paint it because it wasn't there, and I wanted to be true as I could be to the scene, because the standing in front of the scene looks fantastic, of course, because it's there in front of you. But if you know, when you actually paint, when you're painting a painting, it's totally different. You have to be able to sort of let go, I suppose, and feel you can do what you want. And I could have enhanced it. I could have brought out the more of the scene if I just I held myself back, basically. I became a bit tight and a bit fiddly, and you know, not as loose and as free as I could. That shadow under that boat, the dinghy with the canopy, well, I don't know what I was thinking about there. It's a horrible dead browny grey. I can't imagine what I was thinking about when I painted that in. It was not good. But you know, at the end of the day, it's all about learning, and I'll always say this, you know, it's taken, I take so much away from these sessions of plein air painting. I learn more from a session outside painting than I'll ever learn in the studio. I really do, because you actually see so much more when you're outside. It's much more inspiring. You can smell it, you can see it visually. It's I don't know, as I just said, I just learned so much more from painting outside. But that doesn't mean my paintings are always that great. I can produce studio work, which is a lot better, obviously. But because it's in a controlled environment. Outside, it's not. You know, you've got the elements working. You've got people for starters. There was lots of people walking by occasionally. Nobody said anything, but they were all very pleasant. Just said good morning, sorry, good afternoon, or good, early evening it was. But yeah, it was a lovely experience. So here I go again, back on that side of the boat, adding these colours in, but not really knowing what to do with the grassy areas, or I was just floundering a bit at this point. I think I was uninspired, really, because the light wasn't playing ball for me, and it kind of left me. I almost need to be told what to do by the light. I was struggling to make my own mind up. But this is plein air painting, and I didn't have a chance to do my setup video. I was going to video the setup. That is going to come in the next 2 weeks. Within the next 2 weeks, the setup I use out there to paint. And I think a lot of you, if you want to get into plein air painting, you'll find that useful. It's a very simple setup, but very effective. And most of you won't be filming your work, so you won't need as much kit as I've got. But and if I didn't need to film it, it would be really lightweight and very user friendly. I'll even put a link into the. I'll try and find a link to where I got the tripod from, because it's a very lightweight tripod, which is really useful for carrying. In fact, it fits into my rucksack, which is really good. I'm just sort of trying to enhance the grasses a little bit. Sorry, Toby's barking. It's dinner time. Getting a bit excited out there. So we've sort of like pulled together. And one thing I do forget to do is there's a nice little bit of red I forgot to put in on the tail end of the sailing boat, where the sail is just sticking out from the blue, and that red would have really helped the painting, I feel, but for some reason I forgot to put it in. There we go. So don't forget, you can leave any comments underneath the video, and any questions you may have. And I'd love to see your paintings if you want to have a go at painting it yourself in the studio, and see what you come up with. You can post your paintings in the community area. Would be really nice. But I was using my limited palette of colours on this, just my split primaries. I've got, I can never pronounce this one, Arolin. I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce it at the moment, sorry, but I can't think of the name. I'll write it down. And cadmium yellow, cadmium red, permanent magenta, and phthalo blue, cobalt blue, and cerulean blue, and lemon yellow. So it's a split primaries basically, and a couple of others. 9 colours in total. But you know, most of the colours you have in your palettes could paint this painting easily. As long as you've got a red, yellow, and a blue, you can paint this painting. You really can. You don't need a, an extensive palette at all. And I always say, that going out and having the limited palette makes the whole process of actually painting plein air much easier, Don't go out with 40 colours in your palette, because you're going to like not know which ones to use, and it's just going to be stress, and you know you won't enjoy this. Well, you won't enjoy the session as much. So keep it simple and mix some colours, and you'll be fine. I'm back down at the New Forest in a couple of weeks. I'm going back down for another week, and I intend to take some bigger sheets of paper with me and do some really big landscapes and video them of the marshes down there, and really let go and use some big brushes and lots of colour and see what happens. Really, it'll be, you know, a new one for me, so I'm looking forward to that. And that will be kind of around the 6th of August onwards. So it's almost coming to an end now. That's basically the painting, what you're looking at now. You know, obviously there's lots wrong with it. The boat looks a bit naff, and but you know, for me it's a great reminder of the day when I actually look at the painting. I get a better reminder of it than if I was looking at a photograph, to be honest. And because I've actually studied it as I've painted it, I've looked at it and scrutinised it, and it gives me a much better idea of the time that I had there. So I'll let you watch the rest of this in peace. Don't forget, if you've got any questions, feel free to post them underneath the video, and I'll do my best to answer them. So I will catch you in the next video. Like I say, the one of the sparkly water will be, I'll put that out probably in the next 48 hours. It's just I can't edit them all at the same time. And I feel, even though it's not a great painting, it's a nice, I like it in the sense that it's got a nice feel to it. It's very loose. It's more my type of painting, really. I wish I'd just been looser on this one. I just became a little bit tight and a little bit unsure of what I was doing. And the minute you become unsure of what you're doing, you often become restricted, and that it doesn't let you flow and let you really, really let go in the way that, you know, we need to, or that I need to really get the best out of my painting. But it just shows, you know, it's the same for everyone, really. You know, it doesn't matter how long you've been painting. The same problems rear themselves up. They don't ever really go away. You just get better, more good sessions. But you still have tough sessions where you're not doing as good as you think you can do, or anywhere near it, really. You ask yourself why afterwards, and it's hard to actually come up with an answer. I put these trees in. I made more of the trees in the background. I wish I hadn't. But they were much more. They weren't so prominent, and for some reason I felt they would be better if I was to put some trees showing through at the top of the hill, but just behind the grasses, and it didn't work really. It just looks unnecessary, I think. The people that came up to the right hand side was a bit of a gift. I enjoy putting, because that gives it a bit of scale. I enjoy putting them in as they came up. But anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. This is going to run out in a minute, and then there's a slight how I talk about what I thought I did, how I got on with the painting afterwards. Okay, that wasn't the best plein air session in the world. I'll edit the video and I'll do a talk through as I do it. So when you see this, you'll obviously see I've done a talk through. It didn't go quite the way I wanted. I was having trouble with the light because the light was very flat and there was no real light source to pick up. So the boat was looking very flat, so I couldn't decide whether to create one or try and paint it as it was, and so the kind of painting was in a bit of limbo land, really. So again, that's my fault, but this is a good learning curve for everybody. This is the sort of problem you'll face when you're outside. Had there been a good strong source of sunlight on this picture, on this scene, then it would have been an awful lot easier to paint. So then I decided to add some trees in the background to make more of those, and then I wish I hadn't because it didn't really work. So the whole process was, you know, again, a learning curve for me, and I'm really happy with that. I've thoroughly enjoyed being out here painting, and I've learnt a lot. So Any questions you have, leave underneath the video and I'll do my best to answer them. I better get back, see how Harry's getting on, because we need to go and get some tea. So I'll catch you all later. Bye for now.